I think it's more important that we let people self-select their goals and commitments than it is that we force an artificial completion rate to feel good about our stuff, right? Because I don't care how I feel about my stuff. I care how you feel about my stuff. I think
Yes.
that's way more important.
Well, hey friends, welcome to another episode of the Heather Sager Show. It's Coach Heather, and today we have a fun conversation with my friend Zack Spuckler. Now, I had the chance to meet Zack for the first time. It's about a year and a half ago at Entrepreneur Experience. I shared the story in the episode, so I'll keep it brief. But I did not know who Zack was until I heard him step up to the microphone and ask a question at Amy Porterfield's event. And people around me were whispering, "Oh, that's Zack Spuckler." And I remember going, "Am I supposed to know who that is?" I was very new to the industry. I didn't know the who's who, but I learned very quickly that Zack had been around for a while. He in the past 6 years, he's spent over hundreds of thousands in personal and client ads managing Facebook ads. So he's managed launches ranging from $3,000 to $300,000 and found really clear patterns that he's used both personally and professionally to create results. Results like the six-figure info product launch for himself. That was just over $173,000 to be exact. And multiple six-figure launches managed for clients. He talks about in the episode how he runs an agency side of his business, managing Facebook ads, and he also has a course-based business. But more relevantly, Zack's been featured on top podcasts like Entrepreneur on Fire, the Online Marketing Made Easy podcast, the Mind Your Business podcast, the Art of Paid Traffic podcast. He's been featured a lot. He's known often as the challenge guy. The main thing is, after making millions of dollars over the course of those 6 years from launch-based businesses, he's now focused on helping and supporting online coaches and course creators be able to launch more successfully for themselves. So he's really about sharing what works. I also love Zack's real talk. He shows up fully as himself online. We go into in true Sager fashion, some side tangents. There are some juicy side tangents today. We talk about bumper bowling. We went on a tangent about nail polish and designer handbags and diastasis recti, and I talk about how your stomach stretches after birth, although that has absolutely no relevancy to Zack, who obviously has never given birth. Anyways, we talk about some random things. We have a really good, meaningful conversation, centralized, believe it or not, around the idea of live challenges. But today you're going to hear things like a 3-step recipe to make your next challenge successful. So what it actually means step by step, what do you need to do to create a live challenge and evaluate whether or not it's the right fit for you. We're going to talk about why the idea of higher price points often means higher commitment. That's the conception of the space, but we talk about how that's a little bit of a bogus concept and how we need to really understand that true value means keeping our audience at the center. So we're going to redefine what value looks like. Zack gives you a little mini tutorial here around how to create a gap when it comes to problem solving in the selling process. So pay particular attention. You might want to grab a notebook for this one. We also talk about how to recalibrate the ruler that you're probably using to measure your own success and goal setting in your business. We talk a lot about this idea that, hey, the online space has this big narrative around to be successful, you have to be striving to be a 7-figure entrepreneur. And that's not true. You do not have to generate 7 figures for you to hit your goals. First, you have to start by actually asking yourself, what kind of business do you want? We go all over the place this conversation, but bring it all back to showing up in a really authentic way and making decisions that's in alignment with the kind of business and life that you want. So I hope you grab a cup of coffee, maybe grab a notebook. Be sure to give us a shout out on social media and screenshot and share this. Zack shares at the end of the episode. He's like on a mission to get some more followers on Instagram. We all would love that. So take a screenshot, follow Zack, enjoy this conversation with my friend Zack Spuckler. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Heather Sager Show. I am thrilled today to be here with my friend, Zack Spuckler. How are you today?
I'm good, Heather. How are you?
Well, I'm doing good. We were just laughing about all the techie fun stuff that happens when it comes to
Yeah,
working tech, and we're making it work today with some backup options.
love it.
Oh, okay, Zack, you and I met. It's been about a year and a half ago where we officially met in person.
Yes.
I'm not going to assume that you remember this moment, but it happened to be at Entrepreneur Experience at the bar at about 11:30 at night. We started chatting.
Yeah, I remember.
And it was so funny because that night I had no intentions of hanging out at the bar at that event. I'd actually gone back to my hotel room after the event. I took off my shoes, I got in my jammies, I crawled in my bed, and I remember thinking, nope, I came to this event to network and meet other people. I do best when it's like with a cocktail in my hand at a bar. So I got redressed, came down, and that's the night that I met Bobby Klink. I met you, and we've all stayed connected very well after that event. So I'm very grateful that I got my tush out of bed. But I forever remember that. And I remember how kind and laid back and just very interesting you were on just a variety of things. So, anyways, I'm very excited my audience gets to know you today. So, why don't you share a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So, hey, everybody, my name is Zack Spuckler. My company is Hard Soul and Hustle, and we work with online businesses in both a course and agency capacity to help them scale up their digital course launches. That's the elevator pitch.
That's the elevator pitch. And just pay particular attention, y'all. You're practicing your elevator pitches. It's one of the reasons why you listen to the show. That is a great example of a concise pitch and not the long-winded, like, here's my entire life journey to get to this podcast interview.
Yes, I was actually born in Cleveland on July 7th, 1993, which is where it
It was
started.
a hot, blistery day. Like, oh my gosh. Okay. So you mentioned when you talk about you have the agency side and you have the course creator side. This is one of the things that I find really interesting about your perspective. And for anyone listening who's not following Zack on social, follow. You've been experimenting with reels lately.
Yes.
I'm here for it. Totally here for
Having
it.
so much fun with reels.
But I love because your perspective comes from both serving service-based providers and entrepreneurs on that creative agency side, but also as the actual get your hands into the dirt, figuring it out as a course creator yourself. Out of the gate, I don't know if you can play favorites, but do you have like one area that you enjoy more than the other?
It's funny. I enjoy both of them in a different capacity. So the agency side of things, it's fun because I can get a client and make like the cost of 10 courses in like 15 minutes
Yeah.
on a sales call. Totally different ball game than when I'm doing like a webinar to 150 people and I'm trying to scale up a product or I'm doing a low ticket ad. I love the service side of business because it helps me really understand what is working and not working from a launch perspective. But I really love the course side of things because it lets me experiment and have fun and be really uninhibited. Like when I'm managing for the agency, we run Facebook ads for people. And so in that, I get to be a little creative, but at the same token, like results are on the line. So it's like high pressure. But with the courses, like for the most part, you can launch and break even and it's not that hard. And it just tells you like, oh, change your messaging, change your positioning, try a different webinar, try a challenge instead. So that side is where I get to like really have fun and like paint on a blank canvas. So I like having the intimate insider knowledge of being an agency, but I love the experimental side of being a course creator.
Yeah, I could see that. It's like that balance of being able to do both sides where it's the I think like this is a really weird analogy, but like in a NASCAR race, you have like the actual driver on the track versus the
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called, like the crew chief, which is like the person with the
Pit crew,
microphone.
yeah.
Like it's I've been to one NASCAR race in my life. That's literally the extent of what I
I
know.
grew up in the Midwest, so I've seen many a NASCAR race.
Yeah. I think that quality though is I think it's very entrepreneurial, right? I think a lot of people have an exciting time sitting on the sidelines telling other people how they run their businesses.
Yeah.
And that's fun and creative, but if that's not actually your business, it could get a little distracting and exciting.
Yeah.
But I love that you built it in. What you mentioned your like your smaller low ticket offers. I've
Mhm.
noticed you talking a lot more about those this last year.
Yeah.
Is that the project you're most excited about right now?
I think, yeah, in a way it is. And I know we talked briefly about this, but for me, I noticed this trend in the online space where things have just gotten like astronomically expensive out of the gate for the average entrepreneur. And look, I tell people all the time, like I'm not opposed to a high ticket price point. We charge 5 figures for ongoing coaching for one-on-one clients. We have multi 4 figure group coaching client offers. We have a course that we sell for 500. But we also have stuff that we sell for 37 bucks. And, I think that one of the big messages we've kind of been fed, if you have been online for more than like 5 years, like 5 years ago, everything was like 6 figure this and 6 figure that and 6 figure coach and 6 figure course. And the market's gotten a little more sophisticated. And so some people now are like, oh, it's the 7 figure course or the 7 figure secret. But there's also been this veer in sophistication of like, oh, you should only take on high ticket clients. High ticket clients are higher quality clients. High ticket clients are easier to get. High ticket clients can be gotten, without sales calls and you can still get them. And, is it easier to build $1 million business with 100 clients or 10,000 clients? And for me, one of the things that I've observed is that a lot of that narrative is very self serving. And I don't mean that in a like it's self serving in a bad way, so to speak, but it's only serving the creator, right? And if you want to create to reach more people or grow your business or build your brand, we all know that it starts with solving a problem, right? But like so many people with this high ticket, 7 figure, do whatever it takes, this is the magic bullet narrative is that it serves the creator, not the problems that creator should be solving. And so for me, low ticket has been a way to we've done not in a single year. I'm always really transparent about that, but we've done multiple 7 figures since I've been online in revenue, right? And I've taken home probably about 30% of that over the course of 6 years. Okay, so I'm not like this wildly, massively successful person. I guess it really depends on where you sit, but I'm not sitting here with like a $10 million a year business making 30, 40, 50% profit. My viewpoint is kind of like, what about this middle ground, right? And even more important, what about the people who are like, oh, I want to launch a course or I want to run Facebook ads or I want to learn this system, but like it's the chicken or the egg, right? It's like, do I invest in myself or do I invest in my marketing costs or do I invest in neither one and do everything organically? And I think up to this point, and even currently, a lot of the message is like, oh, if you don't invest in yourself, then like that's the mistake. And it's like, well, that's not really necessarily true. It's like if you're barely making ends meet and you've saved up $1,000, buying $1,000 course may not be the best first investment. Right. And so we kind of started in the last 6 to 12 months. And by we, I mean myself and my team really started having this conversation about like, what is the narrative we want to have in this space? And for us, the narrative is like, we're done with icky marketing. We're done with high pressure sales. We're done with the automated webinars that are just happen to be starting in 15 minutes, even though it's like they're starting every 15 minutes. We're done with the stuff that doesn't feel good. And more importantly, we're moving into a phase where, full transparency, when I started, like income was the goal. Impact was not the goal for me. And having made decent money and moving into like where I want to live now and buying a house and doing all these things, it's like impact has become a bigger goal for me. And so I would rather put my course in the hands of 1,000 people and do a little more work on my end than to make the same amount of money selling a $1,200, $1,300, $1,500 course. And what I found is that the big narrative has always been like, oh, if somebody pays X amount of dollars, they're like 10 times less invested than if they pay 10 times that amount of money. And yeah, I mean, I do see people that buy stuff and don't use it because it is cheap. But I've also seen people take my $37 courses and make $20,000, make $50,000, launch their first course, get their first 1,000 email subscribers, cut their Facebook ads cost in half. And for me, it's like, that is like what we're ultimately trying to do. And, again, I'm not dogging on high price points. I just think the making our information super accessible at the paid level is going to be a real contender in the future of online marketing. So that's my soapbox. I'll step
I
down.
love your soapbox. I'm going to join you on the soapbox because it's one of those things that I think it's really easy when people are focused on the money piece. It's really easy. It's really easy to sell people. It's really
Yeah.
easy to convince them. There's so many connections around how someone's offer can enrich someone's life. You just have to figure out the loose end that you're going to tie for them. It's really really easy, it, and a lot of people, because it's easy, they do it. And I think this is the big conversation that I like show up to talk about. Is selling's not bad. It's you have to make sure that you're taking in more than just like one pain point that an audience member has and digging into it. So I am all high end right now. So my business is all high end, and I'm having a lot of conversations with my team around how do we make things more accessible beyond the podcast. And one of the things that we do often is we actually tell people not to buy our program.
Yeah,
Because
love that.
like a lot of really really new course creators, they find the show, they referred by someone, and they hear me talking about getting your messaging down, and they're like, oh my gosh, I got to get my messaging down, I got to speak on stages, I got to figure out how to speak on Instagram, I got to figure out all these things. And it just creates all these I should be doing statements. And so I'm so grateful that they reach out to me on Instagram to talk. And when we go down to it, they don't have an offer yet, they don't have a sales engine. We should not be focused on scaling our business if we don't have anything to scale yet.
Yeah.
So I usually like, no, do not. And what's funny is half of them still join the program anyways, and they're fully supported. But
Right.
I find this, and you've probably seen this too, when people are honest and tell you that their program is not a good fit for them, I find that as I don't know, like that to me is a sign. I sometimes actually ask businesses like an outlandish question to see if they'll actually tell me I'm a bad fit, or if they'll try to
Right.
and their answer will help me determine whether or not I want to do business with them. maybe,
Love
maybe
that.
that's weird. I don't know.
No, I
But
love it.
it's something that you brought up around this misconception that different price points determine different levels of action for the clients.
Yes.
I want to go there because that actually hooks to one of the big things I want to talk about today. And there's this conversation around trying to get more people in your programs to the finish line. I'm actually curious around your take on this. I'll share with you mine because I hear this thing around like such a small percentage of people finish digital courses, and how like your goal is to get more people finished in your course. And I actually think that's a really bogus thing. I am like, I don't really care if anyone finishes my course. I care did they get what they wanted from it and get results from it that are they're happy with. But like what I see is every program, whether it's high ticket, low ticket, there's like this bell curve where you're always
Hmm.
going to have people who never touch your product on one extreme. And then on the other extreme, you're going to have your super users that literally consume every single thing you do, whether or not they get results. I mean, regardless. But then you have all the people in the middle who pull pieces from it and use it to how they want. And so for me, I honor those aspects of the bell curve. I don't try to shift the bell curve by getting like having people have this false sense of accomplishment by finishing a digital course. Like that's not my goal. I'm curious when you think about that idea of like people finishing things and taking action. What comes to mind for you?
That's a really good question. For me, we have a large non-completion rate, and it's probably due to the fact that it is a really impulse purchase price. But we also have a really healthy percentage of people that take courses, and I look at courses, books, audiobooks, podcasts. I look at them as reference material more than I do
Totally.
as like a cover to cover movie or a
Yeah.
story. And for me, it's like, I bought $1,000 course once because I wanted like one module from the whole course. Wasn't even a module, it was a bonus. And I was like, that is worth $1,000 to me if I can get it to work. And so if that course creator was to come back, the person who created that course, and say, well, but Zach, you didn't finish the course. I'm like, yeah, but I got what I needed. So who cares? Right. That's how I look at courses, is more like
Yeah.
reference material. And, it's a double-edged sword, because it's also like you do want to be a beginner. You do want to go through courses from a place of, you can learn everything from a beginner's mindset. You can look at everything from a fresh perspective. But at the end of the day, sometimes you're not in a phase of your life, your business, your goals where you need to go through an entire thing. I've bought, I bought email templates for launches where it's like, this is great and all, but I don't need 20 emails. I need two. But to solve that burning problem right now, I'll pay a couple $100.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, it's more about, are you actually solving the problem or need that the person who is finding that course is looking for? Is far beyond the importance of, does somebody have 100% completion rate?
Yeah.
Right. Because it's like, I'm not running a pass fail college lecture.
Yeah.
I'm running something that's to create a result. And for some people, that is, we're actually launching one of our courses right now. And I talked about this. I was like, how often are we being told in marketing, like, this is your goal, 6 figures is your goal, 7 figures is your goal, the house is your goal, the car is your goal. And it's like, maybe that's not even your goal. Maybe your goal is to just sell your first course because you've been spinning your wheels for a year and you just want proof that it works. And then you can like believe in yourself again. That might be worth $500 for some people. And for other people, it's not. Right. To other people, it might be like, hey, if I don't make at least $2,000, this was a waste of my time. I think it's more important that we let people self select their goals and commitments than it is that we force an artificial completion rate to feel good about our stuff, right? Because I don't care how I feel about my stuff. I care how you feel about my stuff. And I think
Yes.
that's way more important.
Oh my gosh, I love how you phrase that piece. This is part of my resistance to the overused term of value, creating more
Mm,
value to people, because what I
yeah,
find is a lot of course creators make value mean what it like they find valuable. Of course, people want this swipe file, or of course, people want this extra module, and we start cramming things in it with the perception of value. But it's exactly what you just said. It doesn't mean the translation isn't what we think it is. It's what the end person does with it and what they want. Like value is
exactly.
the eye of the other person. Like they get to determine what's valuable and what's not. And I love that. I love just how you phrased that. That was really beautiful.
Thank you.
So, okay. So thinking about this, the connection of where I was going, I want to talk to you today about challenges.
Yeah.
And where I think this kind of ties in is, well, we don't get to determine what people do in terms of completion of courses and the ultimate, I mean, they're going to determine what their goals are to get what they need out of our programs. I do think that helping people get into action is really, really valuable.
Yes.
There's that word for value. But I just think a lot of people struggle with just getting into motion and challenges. I've been hearing about them for years. I personally have never participated in any kind of business challenge. I've like I was telling you, I've had like blinders on around like following strategies,
Yeah.
not following strategies. But I am really into health and like personal life challenges. I've my audience knows I've been doing the 75
It's
hard.
hard. I've
Oh
seen.
my God, crazy. I'm in like phase one right now. So like I had this realization of like, oh my gosh, I am totally a challenge person. Yet I'd never considered doing a challenge in my business. So that was selfishly speaking why I wanted to have you today, because Zach, I know you love challenges. You teach
Love them.
challenges. A friend of mine just bought your 37 or whatever dollar
Mhm.
challenge it, and she's raving about it. So she's like, "Oh my God, we have to talk to Zach." Anyways, talk to us. What is a challenge, and can you share a little bit about your approach to why challenges might be a good solution for business owners?
Yeah. So simply put, a challenge is just content delivered to a client followed by a period of sales. So the reason I like to start there is because every launch mechanism is that exact strategy. A webinar is just content, pitch, sales. A video series is content, pitch, sales. A challenge is content, pitch, sales. The way that we do it is we do 3 to 5 days of focused content. And as opposed to content that educate, this is content that inspires and activates. It moves people into motion. Okay. So every day for 3 to 5 days, you're basically going to send an email to people who register for your challenge. They have an action to take. You have them in a private Facebook community as well, where they're posting about taking that action, again, inspiring and activating the rest of the community. You do a live video to kind of build trust. I know you're a big fan of live video. So we do live video to build that trust element. And then once we've kind of shown people that they can do the work and that they can get results from the work, we give them an opportunity to work with us at a deeper level. So, one of the things that I really love about this is that webinars are about convincing people that they need your content. Video series are about painting the picture of what people can do with your content and then positioning the offer. And challenges are about showing people what they can do. Because what a lot of people don't realize is there's really 3 objections that somebody's going to take when they come into your course. Do they believe in you? do they think it's worth it? But most importantly, do they believe in themselves? Because one of the big objections that no amount of bonuses, testimonials, great copy is going to overcome is somebody who is at a sheer place of, yeah, this is great, but it's not possible for me. No price point is going to fix that objection. So, what we do with challenges is we empower people to actually create their own momentum over a given period of time and then say, look, you created this momentum. I helped you, but you did the work. Let's continue together. Here's an irresistible offer. And then you move them into your course, program, or coaching.
Yeah. Okay. I love this idea. And I mean, yes, I love lives. I think there's this belief that challenges are more work than webinars.
Oh, for
About the
sure.
tech and stuff. So can you break that down a little bit? Because as you were saying that, I'm like, oh man, I have so many clients and people in my audience who want to do webinars, but they are stuck in the trying to get the perfect webinar framework and having resistance
Love
to it.
this
I'm
question.
like, oh my gosh, a challenge seems so much more like hit live and go, messy
Yes.
action. But share your perspective on that.
So here's the real tea. Yes, challenges are more work than webinars. However, highly conversional, highly forgiving. And so what I tell people is like, look, we actually run a program where we're like, you should use a challenge. We sell that program via webinar, and we're actually reconsidering that because I don't love that, to be honest. But a webinar is a lot easier, and I happen to be in a very busy season of my business. But here's the caveat: a webinar is your success is contingent on your show up ability, your sales ability, and your ability to influence people in a very minute time frame.
Yeah.
Okay. So the average person, like what we kind of get fed in the internet world is like, oh, follow this script, use this template, you will convert at 5 to 10% of your webinar. Well, that's all good and well, except what if you're nervous? What if you've never done it before? What if you mess up? We were just talking about this before we started recording. What if your webinar cuts out halfway through, right? If your challenge was to cut out halfway through, you would just like go live or post in the group or send an email. That happens with your webinar. It literally can cost you thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. Okay. So, yes, it is more work. There's just no bones about it. However, at any point during the 5 days, if people get stuck or confused, you can address that. We did a webinar several years ago and I was so confident in this webinar. I was like, this is going to kill it. That webinar tanked because 30 minutes in, people were like, I'm lost. I don't understand what's happening. And that is the worst feeling because there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Fast forward 2 years, we did a challenge. We released our day 4 content and people went, I'm so confused. I don't understand. What am I supposed to do? That was at 9 a.m. 9:30 a.m. It was just me and one other person on my team at the time. I was like, what do we do? We kind of dialogued. We built a worksheet, shot a video, a live video sharing the worksheet. That was one of our highest converting challenges. Even though people got stuck and confused, we were immediately able to identify and overcome that. So it's kind of like, for lack of a better analogy, it's like going bowling. It's way easier to bowl with the lanes down. I forget what they call them, the bumpers,
Bumper
right?
bowling.
Bumper bowling, right? Bumper bowling is like a challenge. But you have to think, yeah, there's more work. Yeah, you have to go up to the desk and tell the guy, and it's awkward. And you're like, please put bumpers on. I can't bowl even though I'm 25. Just put the bumpers up, right? Yeah, there's some front end resistance, but like, are you going to enjoy the process of throwing a gutter ball every single time? Or are you going to give yourself the advantage of a bumper while you learn? So I'm not anti webinar. And realistically, I'm a marketer at heart. I'm sure I've written anti webinar propaganda via email and ads in my day, but I'm not avidly anti webinar. I just know that the average person getting started with launching their course, with finding their footing, is going to see way more success with a challenge. So yes, it does take a little bit more work. You have to show up every day for 5 days versus like once for 90 minutes. And then you can write emails from the comfort of your pajamas or in bed. Sure, it's a little different, but it works. And that's what I tell people is like, yes, and take the advantage. Take the advantage while it's there.
Yeah. Okay. I love one of the things that you said. I can't remember the other word that you used, but you said that the challenges are more forgiving. Can you
Yeah.
a little bit about that because it's one of the things. My audience is pretty split, right? Where we have some people who are like they're listening because they're like, Heather, help me get over my fear of live video or recorded video or whatever the
Yeah.
fear thing is. They're still dabbling a toe, not fully committed that they're going to do this video thing. And then the other half is like, I'm rocking it, but how do I get better?
Yeah.
So just thinking about this idea of for like being forgiving, I think I know where you're going with this, but I want to hear your take.
Yeah. Well, when I say forgiving, what I'm really getting at is like, you've got to you've got to realize that every time you do something, there's a reaction from your market. You send out an email, they open it and click. You send out a webinar, they attend it or they don't. And so with a challenge, there's just more touch points. And maybe it's just my very analytical brain. Like, a lot of stuff in business is very binary. It either is or it
Yeah.
isn't, right? So did they show up to your webinar? Yes or no? Did they click your email? Yes or no? Did they open your email? Yes or no? Did they watch your live video? Yes or no? There's no like, well, Linda like watched my live video with one eye open, right? Either she was there or she wasn't, right? So with all of that, with a challenge, you got way more touch points. So you have a daily email, a daily live stream, a private Facebook community. You can pay attention to who's engaging. Like on my webinar, it's hard for me to be like, oh, look at those 4 people who talked and then didn't buy. I'm going to go find them on social media and do a personal follow up. With a challenge, I can be like, oh, wow, Deborah posted every day of the challenge. She didn't buy the course. I'm just going to follow up and ask her what she thought and see if she's interested. Right. So it also creates this intimate environment for personalized follow up. And we call it the scrappy principle. I think it's something that's really missing in the online world is like this principle that's like, not every launch, like even for us, sometimes it's not like you just send the emails and make millions of dollars. Sometimes you have to DM people and post on Instagram and do a reel and do a live stream and do a follow up and do a Q&A and check in with people and do one-on-one. And it's like nobody really talks about that because a lot of the times the people that we look at, and again, not a bad thing, just an observation, is they're doing multi-million dollar launches with teams of 40 people and 100, 200, 300, $400,000 ad spend. And then we're saying, well, why when I emulate somebody who has all the resources I don't have, am I not getting the same results? Because you can't get the same results without the same tools. And so when I like, just to kind of bring it back to the original question is like, why is it more forgiving or why is it more flexible? It's ultimately because you have more opportunity to connect with your audience than you do in any other format. I know some people are like really pro like the live video series where you do like a weekly Facebook Live and a private Facebook group. And I argue even then, you're still trying to get people to tune into a webinar. And
Yeah.
those are highly scripted, highly conversional activities. A challenge is like if you can show somebody they can get results, prove you got them for them, prove to themselves they can do it, and then make an offer, it's going to convert so much better than trying to hone your persuasion skills 1, 2, 3 years into the game.
Yeah, yes. I think I call it the power of the head nod, where anytime you're engaging with an audience, if you don't want to be surprised later when people say like no or they have no interest, it's because you never brought them along with you on the journey. People
Yeah.
have to participate in the content in order for them to see themselves like working with you. So if you're not getting head nods, if you're not getting people to take action or see themselves taking action, you're not going to get results. And I love that you talked about the scrappy actions. I am like so a fan of this. I think a lot of times people want to rush in, and I made this mistake very early in my career. I wanted to like rush to the like C-suite table and be fancy and have somebody fetch coffee for me. So I was like,
Yeah.
I was above the stuff, and I learned quickly. I adopted a mantra with my team years ago that was this idea that everybody scoops the poop. That it doesn't matter what level you're at, you participate at every like in everything.
Yeah. Love
When I was
that.
doing like corporate events, it meant if I was an executive, I would clean coffee if I needed to off of a table. Like we all would do that. And translating that into this online space, what I see a lot of times is people want to get to that magnificent seat where they don't have to do those things anymore and they
Yeah.
just want the sales to trickle in. And I think that this industry is just hungry for real human connection. And when you do
Yeah.
things like reach out to someone in the DMs and follow up that, hey, you noticed they had a question that didn't get answered, and you just ask them questions and use the voice chat, like those little things, they matter. And it
Yeah.
really builds great relationships. And my one of my goals that I find is my goal isn't always to make sales, although I would love to make sales. I'm hello, I love money. I want to grow my business, but I want I want people to associate me with helping people make an impact in the world and using their voice. So if that means they just get a little braver, if that means they mention me to someone else, if that means 2 years from now they work with me, I don't really care what that looks like right now, but I think we have to get a little scrappier and build real relationships for that to actually have an impact beyond just our wallet right now.
Yep. I
And
agree 100%. And I think, you know, yeah, it's all good and well, but even even the big names have systems that scale, that create scalable intimacy. I have a good friend, Amber McHugh, who talks about scalable intimacy. And it's like, that's what people want, right? Like, you can still DM some of the big names and they'll write back, or their team will write back, or somebody writes back, or you're acknowledged. And that's really what it comes down to. Is a
yeah,
challenge is this opportunity to connect with and acknowledge your entire um, audience of people that are interested in what you have to say.
it's funny that you brought that up. This is a random example, but I'm in a. You're going to be like, this is so not relative to me, but I'm my honest note. I've had two children. And part of what I've been working on lately is 3 years after having my second child, trying to get my stomach back together. I didn't know that my abs separated during child, whatever. I'm
Gosh.
just way an overshare. Anyways, I'm in an online challenge course right now called ab rehab to like fix your mom stomach. And I bring this up because there are like thousands of people in this Facebook group, and the creator of the challenge is consistently responding to every single question and comment within 2 hours. And I remember initially I posted about this on my Instagram a while ago. I'm like, wow, she was like so responsive to her ads. And then as I see it go, I'm like, oh my gosh, she's got a team scaling this personalized thing under her name. And it's exactly what you're talking about. And I had this moment of going, wait, do I feel gross now knowing that it's not her? Or
Hmm.
nope, I'm actually totally okay with it because like
Yeah.
she's omnipresent in her community. Anyways, very weird random example, but I,
No, I love it.
do you like I feel like there is this inner toggle like devil angel situation that sits with a lot of entrepreneurs trying to figure out this thing right now of how do you not sacrifice your own integrity in order to like make choices like that to scale, because that does feel a little
Yeah.
like I don't know, like do you
No,
struggle
this
with
is
that at
so
all?
good. I think it goes even one layer deeper in that it's getting clear on what you actually want. Right. So some people are chasing the metric that's been put in front of them by the industry, not the metric they want to achieve.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so for us, we've been doing this for 6 years. Our goal this year is not $1 million. Like, this is probably the first, like, we've said this before, but I think this is the first year where it's actually hit me that I'm like, I'm actually not like quietly in the back of my head, like, but maybe I'm like, no, that's not the goal. Not really on track for that. Our goal is to do 500 to 750 in revenue this year at a 20 to 30% profit margin. That's just our goal for the year. And for me, that's achievable without a team of coaches. That's achievable without somebody managing my social at this phase of the game.
Yeah.
And so I always like to start by saying, like, do you actually even want what somebody else is looking to do? I remember I was in a mastermind, and the person who ran it had like an in-person team, and it was like a team of 18 people. And I was like, for a really long time, I was like emulating that person. And I was like, but I don't ever have a desire to have an office. I don't really ever desire my team to be bigger than 6 to 7 people. Maybe I like the idea of employing somebody down the road. Everybody we work with is contracted, even if they're full time to us. Um, Meaning we're their only client. We don't break contract or less, promise. But it's like, where are you even trying to go, right? Then you can ask yourself the question, like, do I have to do this to scale, or what's the most ethical way I can do this to scale, or what do people ultimately want, right? Because it's like, if what people want is to feel accountable and supported, then who cares if you have coaches, right? Because they're not looking for you, right? But at this phase of our business, a lot of people come to me and say, like, Zach, I want to work with you because of you. Well, if that is my X factor and that's working really well for me, and we are at a phase of our business and life where I'm like, I don't want coaches and that's not a goal of mine, then I can lean into that. I don't need to get coaches and I don't need a social media team. And this is just a random aside. I am such a opinionated person about social media, I don't think you need to be posting on social media every day. Every time I set myself a 30-day challenge on social media for like consistency, I fail it. My business is fine. My life is okay. So just as a little side note, if you're like, I'm going to outsource my social media, like you can be pretty crappy at social media and just fine at business. And I say that because that's where a lot of people start is they're like, I'm going to outsource this or I can't keep up with that. And it's like one thing that I always like to refer to is my friend Tiffany, who calls it hit hustle. She's like, there's just seasons of your business where you have to hustle. And like our internet marketing culture has two polar opposites of like everything is easy, visualize your life and it will come. And then like work so hard that the haters like remember your name. There is like a middle ground. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. That's called life. There's ebbs and flows. And I know this is like really like where am I going with this, but all of this is to say like you have to figure out where you operationally as a business operate from. And that comes down to values, that comes down to goals, that comes down to which side of the polar opposite or polar opposites that you're on. Some people disagree with me, and my thing is like, look, I started my business by like busting my what and working 20-hour days sometimes and sleeping 4 hours and being young and 22, and I didn't have any kids. It's not really fair to come along and be like, it can be easy if you let it. Well, yeah, but it never, like, that's not how I started. Like, that's not true. It can be hard. It can be resentful, like, I don't know. Anyway, all of that to say, scalable intimacy and the things that you do, it has to come from a frame of your goals, your values, and what feels good and what your customer wants. Like for me, what my customer wants, and this is just like, if you listen to this and you know me and you're like, that's not true, feel free to push back. But my customers like me because I'm very much like opinionated, over the top, big personality, been doing this for years, and that's my X factor. And so it's silly to be like, well, I'm just going to hire coaches to do all my work at this phase of my business. Could I retrain my audience, reset my goals, change what I'm doing? Absolutely. But realistically, my goal isn't to run a $10 million a year coaching business or course business. It's just not. And I think if more people had the nerve, and I know that sounds a little verbose, but it's like if more people had the just like the wherewithal to be like, actually, I don't want what everyone's telling me I want. I just want this. Like that would be great. And I think the YouTube world is really good at doing this. Is like some people start YouTube because they want to just like get it out there. Some people start YouTube because they want to make $10,000 a month. Some people want to make $500 a month. Some people just want people to buy their handmade stuff. It's like with online courses, we have conditioned us to believe that whoever we're following is the idol, is the path, is the way to go. And it's like, just get outside influences. Look at different people, look at what you want, and then figure out what you actually want. Because odds are it's not what somebody else has. So
This is such an important reminder. Like I am no side tangents. Like this is all I'm here for this because one of my big things I talk about all the time to my community is this idea that if you're looking for scripts, if you're looking for fill in the blank templates, if you're looking for me to make speaking on stages easier by telling you what to say, you're working with the wrong coach. Like I'm not your coach because I think that the challenge a lot of people have is they're expecting somebody else to fill in the blank for them.
yeah.
Like insert your goals here, insert what to say here to sell here, insert what kind of product you should build here. Like we're all looking for the easier way to do this. And the reality is like business is it's not becoming an entrepreneur and having a successful business is not easy. Like there is resistance the entire way. You choose what that looks like, right? It doesn't mean it has to be like freaking daunting and overwhelming every day, but we have to cautiously put ourselves in situations to use our brains. And whether that's figuring out how to put together your own talk or how to do your messaging with some frameworks, or it's the challenging what your goals are because you've been following other people's models. I think people would start feeling a lot more engaged and happier in their businesses, myself included. I had a big aha this last year by actually questioning the goals that you write down for yourself. Are they actually your goals or are they someone else's? Like, it just thinks it's so powerful, and it's a constant reminder. I think we all need, because the messaging in this industry are so in your face on social all the time. We're always being conditioned on around what to think and how to set goals. So
Yep.
I love this. Okay, so back to the challenge thing, because I want to make sure we circle back to there, and then we're gonna wrap this up. I could talk to you all day, Zach. Oh my gosh, I couldn't, I would, but we got shit to do. So, so thinking about the challenge, like if somebody is listening to this and they like that idea of going, okay, I get that the challenge technically might be more work, but I love the fact that it's a little bit more casual, gives me a little bit more leeway, and I love the analogy of the bumpers in a bowling lane. I think that's beautiful, and I think bumper bowling is way more fun than
100%.
bowling. Like, love it. So if somebody's thinking about that, like what should they be considering, slash what should they do next if they want to feasibly take on a challenge in their business?
Absolutely. So, three super quick things. One, know the process. So, the process is send a daily email, do a daily live stream, host everything in a private Facebook group. One, two, three steps. You do that every single day. You've got three touch points where you're connecting with your ideal customers who signed up for the challenge.
Love it.
Second thing, make sure you create demand for your program. The biggest mistake that I see people make with a challenge is they go, well, I'm just going to teach what I'm good at, and people are going to like me and trust me and buy my thing. And that's not how sales works. That's not how persuasion works. I'm all for, a good feel good moment, all for giving value. I write blog posts that are 5, 6, 7, 8,000 words that outline my entire courses. And I'm telling you, do not do that with your challenge. You want to create what we call the gap. And the gap is basically the way that we describe this is what's called the PSP model: problem, solution, problem. So your audience has a problem. You need to solve that with some kind of solution. That's your challenge, but it needs to uncover a deeper problem that you're really working with people on. So, Heather, I'm going to use you as a fly by the seat of my pants example.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Some people are like, I want to fill my webinars. I want to fill my webinars. Well, if Heather did a challenge called, get the 50 perfect webinar attendees, right? We would refine the title a little bit, but we would call it like, get your first 50 webinar viewers. Right. And then she does this challenge and she's like, hey, I'm going to help you figure out your opt-in page and your thank you page. And you might be like, why would Heather teach this? This has nothing to do with talking or speaking or clarifying your message. Because if you get to day 5 and people are like, I am ready to do my webinar, what the heck should my webinar be on? And then Heather goes, well, that's a great question. You got the people, you got the stuff. If you want to learn how to craft your perfect webinar, come join me inside, perfect webinar 2.0, whatever. So just be thinking next step. Now, it doesn't always have to be that disconnected, for lack of a better word. Sometimes we did a 5-day Facebook ads challenge. It was, we'll set your first Facebook ad up together in 5 days. Literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in, they had a Facebook ad running. And then we said, do you want to learn what's next, right? The new problem is, how do I scale? How do I spend? What do I do with these leads? What's the next step? And so we were like, hey, come enroll in our program, Facebook ads management, and we'll give you this bonus, how to set up a basic funnel for all your new subscribers. It was like a total no-brainer. And we gave lots of information. We moved people into action. They were doing the things we wanted them to do. They were experiencing real transformation, and then they moved into it. So that's the second thing. Make sure there's a gap. And then the third thing is have a sales sequence ready. Okay. So second biggest mistake, because I already said the biggest, but I would argue they're both pretty big mistakes.
They're all just massive.
They're all big. Is to make sure that you're not doing everything in real time. So I can tell you, as somebody that has launched both proactively, where everything's written, scheduled, copywriter, systems dialed in, those launches always go a million times better than the launches where I'm like, door closes in 6 hours. So today's email is why you should buy. And now I'm going to stare at my computer screen and blinking cursor for 20 minutes. So it's okay if you're doing things in real time. I would say 80% of people I work with, especially in their first launch, they're doing stuff in real time. You underestimate, what's that saying? You overestimate what you can do in a day and underestimate what you can do in a year. You will overestimate how much you can get done the 2 weeks before the challenge and underestimate how much work the challenge itself is. So I always tell people, write out your sales sequence or your content sequence in advance. Right now, in our program, we actually teach people to write their sales sequence the week of the challenge. So the reason we do that is because you're getting all this real-time feedback, and it's really nice to from a copywriting perspective, to have the words of your audience in this massive Facebook group that you can just scan through and write emails from. Total ninja copywriting hack. What I'm saying is when the card opens Friday, try to have as many of your Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, Tuesday, if you're going to stay open longer, emails ready to go. Okay. So anything you can prep in advance for your challenge is going to be like the best thing you can do for yourself and your sanity. As somebody whose cart closes in 4 hours that has two more emails to write, doing a podcast interview, I can tell you it's a busy day. 10 out of 10 do not recommend. Um, but you know, that is the reality, right? We prepped the whole webinar in advance, we prepped our ads in advance, and our sales sequence fell to the side. Knowing what I know now, I would recommend doing it the other way. So yeah, so those are the big three things. Number one, know the flow. Number two, build the gap. And number three, prep your content in advance.
Okay, I love this. I love this so much. Thank you for breaking that down. And I know you have a low ticket offer
Yeah.
that helps people like step by step walk through this. Where can they go? Where can they go find that? Because I know I'm going to be buying it because I'm going to be doing
Absolutely.
a challenge. Probably
So
not that little one you came up with, but something's happening later this summer.
yeah, so we if you go to toolkit.heartsoulhustle.com, we have what we call the challenge launch toolkit, and it is a $37 training that walks you through how to map out your challenge, write your emails, write your sales emails, come up with your content, write your strategy, write your challenge flow. And also it has, I'm always really careful when I say this, it's got a Facebook ads crash course. So it's like literally a 25-minute video on how we set up ads for a challenge. If you've never been inside the ads manager before, it will not solve all your problems in 25 minutes. But if you run ads and you're like, okay, I really want to like learn the process, it covers that as well. It's got worksheets, templates, workbooks, some really awesome stuff in there. We hear from people all the time that it is a $37 offer that outweighs some of the higher ticket offers out there. And we pride ourselves on that. And whole little tangent is like we do that because we want people to love our stuff, love what we do, and not feel wary investing higher ticket with us down the road.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. I love that. We'll put a link to all of these things we're talking about today into the show notes. As we wrap up here, Zach, because I know you got to go write those promo
Gotta go
emails.
write a couple of promo emails. Yeah.
Any other just words of encouragement for an entrepreneur right now who's maybe struggling to be, I'm going to go a little bit of we're going to go left turn here for a second, struggling to fully show up online, whether it's on video or just be a little bit bolder in their message. Do you have any words of encouragement for them?
Yeah, I do. Here's the thing. People are going to judge you one way or the other, so they might as well judge you for just being the person that you are. You know, like I'm somebody who I was pretty young when I started my business. For those that don't know, I'm out proud gay entrepreneur. Was not when I started my business. I was 22, didn't come out for a couple years. I was already in my business. I already had very much like an established brand and a color palette, and you know, as closeted gays do, we like to downplay some things. I wasn't great at it. My whole family was not shocked when I came out. No one really was. But here nor there, what I have come into in the last, few months, few years has been like more internal identity exploration and things like that. And unfortunately, or fortunately, just depending on how you look at it, like I live a somewhat public life. You start a personal brand and people just expect to learn and know things about you. People who come to my webinars are like, where's Ted? Where's Charlie? That's my dogs. People are like, oh my gosh, I started wearing nail polish recently. And people are like, what color are your nails today? And it's like, you don't think about that, but living out loud can really inspire a lot of people. And just like, like when I did the first post with like, oh my gosh, my nails match my really overpriced bag. Cause I also have like a small obsession with collector or designer bags. Whole nother conversation. But I lost a bunch of followers
This
when
is
I
why
posted
you have to
that.
follow Zach on Instagram. He shares all this in his
I
story.
live a very wild life under the surface when I'm not just sitting at home in my pajamas. But it's like, I lost followers over that. But my thing is like, I would rather have followers who love me for the authentic person I'm being, where I'm not having to play a part. And I think that's really like, will I paint my nails forever? I honestly don't know, but I'm doing it this week and it feels good to me. And I think that's what's more important is the message is like when we posted about Pride Month, we lost followers. But then at the flip side of all of that, like we've gained followers through the process, right? So it's like, I just, just be yourself because people are going to hate on you either way. I had last little tangent I'll throw in here. I had a YouTube channel that had nothing to do with business. Like none of my associates knew it. We built it up to like 3,500 subscribers, and then I just ran out of like the time and patience for it, honestly. But people used to say like the meanest things. People would be like, "You don't say it that way. This idiot doesn't know what he's talking about. Oh my gosh, you're terrible." Like just the meanest, nastiest comments, which is totally YouTube, by the way. That's super YouTube. I do not get as many rude comments on Facebook. I almost said any, but that's not true either. It's like people are going to hate on you either way, especially as you create more visibility in your business. And so it's like if people are going to hate on you, let them hate on the real you. You know, it's like you want to hate on me, that's cool, but you're going to hate me for the person I actually am, not the person I'm trying to be online. And I'm really stepping into that more in the last few months.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I actually didn't know part about your story. I didn't realize how young you were when you started your business.
Yeah,
Like,
22.
I have so many questions about that. We'll get into that. It is such a good message. I think there is a discovery process for every entrepreneur around how much of me can I actually be, and people will still like me. And then you start asking different questions. It's almost like as I approach 40, I'm like, I don't effing care anymore what people think. Like, this is me. But like, you have to go through the process in your 20s and 30s. And I think it's the same as an entrepreneur. So I think it's such a good reminder. Zach, you talked about your love for handbags and nail polish and all the things. Where can people follow your journey with that and all things business?
Yeah, if you want to follow me
Instagram.
for all things business, funny reels, my dogs, and then every once in a while I launch a thing or two. Instagram at Heart Soul Hustle is the best place to connect with me, or heartsoulhustle.com if you're looking to reach out. We have like our contact forms, basic outline of the stuff that we offer, podcast, blog posts, all of that, heartsoulhustle.com. But at Heart Soul Hustle on Instagram is like, I love connecting with people there. And I'm like one of those people who's like now quietly gunning for 10,000 followers. I've been at 7,000 for 2 years. And I'm like, and again, my business is doing fine, just goes to speak to the stupidity of social media some days. But I want that 10,000 followers. So if you want to
We
be
want
like,
that for you.
I
We want
want, yeah,
you.
I
Y'all.
want
Okay.
that. I've decided. So
So
come follow me.
here's what we're going to do. We are going to make sure you take a screenshot of today's episode, share it in your Instagram stories, tag Zach and I. Let us know which weird, outlandish tangent was your favorite today.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
hashtag Sager side note is definitely a thing, and you just joined on the party, Zach. So this is so great.
I love it.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for being here, Zach. Everyone,
Thank
thanks for
you.
listening today, and we'll see y'all in the next episode.